I'm playing Coral, and obviously once you kind of enter a role, you kind of see the whole play through the prism of Coral's eyes. And Coral to me, I mean, she's in another state because she's lost her son, so she's in grief. So her ability to connect or communicate, she can't kind of do the surface stuff. I find that really interesting in this play because there's a lot of pretense or lying, or the routines that people go through, or just family dynamics or social dynamics. And somehow, so certainly from Coral's perspective, when something massive, kind of trauma has happened, she's kind of not able to do the light surface, and she seems to then also see and penetrate into what's happening behind the veneer of people. I think, in the past she's described as ghost-like and kind of like depleted, but I find her to be almost hypersensitive and hyper aware of everything going on.
I think what's interesting in the play, because Coral and Roy, isn't it? Roy have literally lost their son. For Gwen, who I play, she hasn't lost her daughter, but the fear is losing her daughter, and not literally, but for every parent. She's sort of the struggle for any parent, I guess, who may be fearful of that loss. It's the anticipation, and so what Gwen struggles with is the anticipation of what could happen to her daughter, the events, the people she could come in contact with, and Tom, the character in the play, who's the fear that the wrong type of person, that she may make the wrong moves, do the wrong things. And for someone like Gwen, who is very systematically ordered in her thinking, and she has a very definite way of seeing things, she has very clear delineations about what life and society and everything should be about, it's very traumatic for her. It's mainly about anticipation, I think, and so therefore the challenges are to do with the potential of losing a child, not actually having lost a child. And through the play, what's explored and discovered is, I think for Gwen anyway, is the inevitability that has to happen, and that you can't hold on to your children, really.
And then there's the third mother as well, who knows
conscious knowledge.
Yeah, so it's interesting that theme running through. Who knows? Yeah, they know that their son is terminally ill, and they will lose him, and they've chosen.
Well, they're already on the road of acceptance.
Yeah,
that is that inevitability. So it's
but that brings them to be very much just living for the moment and allowing the moment to be enough.
Allowing, that's a good word. It feels like the play is a lot for the mothers is about what they will and won't allow, and what it's just interesting you said that what is an individual willing to allow to have happen, and some allow and some don't.
And Coral, I guess she's holding on, like even though her son's dead, she won't let go. So she won't let go. She can't let go. So there's a sort of a stasis, which makes her also unable to. She's not really functioning.
I think the play, which is set in 1968, is definitely a backdrop for the events of the play, and very definitely, I think, in your storyline. And I think that, certainly from my point of view, there are definite social, political, family constructs and things of that period which are very much there. But I think in this particular production, although all of those things are commented on and there's the potential for all of those things to have great impacts, what I think Matt definitely going for in this production is finding the things which trigger all people, that emotion and emotional states are universal things, and that regardless of the period, whether it's 68, whether it's the year 2000, whether it's whenever it is, that the dynamic between individuals and the events that can happen, like the death of a child, regardless of whether it's determined because it was the Vietnam War or the same, it may bring up very similar emotional states, and the same for a parent trying to relinquish their power over their teenage child.
Yeah, in this particular production, I don't feel like we've had a lot of discussion necessarily about the 60s or social or familial, how things may have been different. I'm certainly just I'm not taking that into consideration even in playing the scenes, except perhaps from the marriage perspective. I think
yes, the roles within the marriage.
Yeah, I think definitely the women, well, both our characters after having children just don't work. So, and there's a comment where we're kind of frowned upon the other mother who has to work because they have to.
There are definite attitudes.
There seems to we've both got we've got these days to kind of either control the house or sit and stew, or there's this kind of time, and then it's interesting because the play takes place when the couples go away, because the husbands are at work, the women have this time where they're just their own master in their home, and then there's holidays. We have to spend a whole fortnight together.
And it's interesting because I don't find that difficult to place into a contemporary context in a way, because I think it's interesting listening to you hear that, because I think I haven't been thinking about that so much, that I've been thinking that the underlying concerns and worries and fears and things are enough to make the person want to take the Beck's powder, or and in a contemporary take something else. So as a reliever of stress or an anxiety for whatever reason. So it's interesting, isn't it? That the period, it being 1968, hasn't been, as you say, a big topic of discussion in this. Some productions, I'm sure, would definitely focus on that and set it against, but this is definitely not a period piece. I would say definitely. I think with Gwen, the storm, which totally destroys all their holiday anyway, and destroys all the things that represent what they have, apart from their home, but what they've worked hard for, their status, that they're no longer in a tent, they're in a caravan, that gets decimated, all their things, and that it's everything that Gwen has fought so hard to maintain that level of lifestyle and status is destroyed. But it's way beyond that. I think that for Gwen, the storm represents very much it is almost like being pulled out in a rip, and you feel out of your depth, literally out of your depth. Everything, you're sort of washed up. You haven't been washed onto shore yet. You're still in the turmoil of being sucked under and churned around, and therefore I think emotionally she is like experiencing emotions that she doesn't know what to do with. And then when she learns from the English couple that their son is actually dying, she only begins, I think, a journey of realisation that she has emotions that she hasn't been in touch with, such as empathy, and she can't recognise it. So she begins a journey of getting back to shore in a way, but when she reaches shore, it won't be the same. She won't go back to the same shore. It'll be a new beach that she starts to wander on, I think, metaphorically, you know.
Yeah, the storm, definitely in the play we've talked about it almost like in King Lear, and there are lots of Shakespearean sort of threads through. So it's like it's something inevitable, which and for Coral it feels like a really necessary. I mean, it was brewing in her, and it comes and it creates space. She leaves Roy, and she's just, it's like, yeah, she casts herself out with the storm. I find the storm in some way liberates her from, hasn't been working in this world, and somehow liberates her and takes her where she needs to be, which is away from him, away from everyone, in nature, and just able to feel and restore, somehow restores life just in its in the elemental nature of it.
Yes, just as Coral's, as you say, liberated, it's like they're on a very different, like that's her liberation, and for Gwen it's just a beginning of something that one day you'd hope might be a liberation, but it's a long way off yet, you know. It's interesting. It's sort of her destruction before she can begin to rise again. It's like the rising from the ashes or something, you know. It sort of has to happen that way for her, whereas Coral, that's... and then for Vic and the other mother, they avoid the storm.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't hit them. They were
sheltered
from the storm because it's almost like the storm which is yet to happen for them, they've already accepted. So they don't have to be thrown around by it or you know, weathered by it.
Yeah, it does strips them back
them
to,
down.
yes, as it does with Leah as well, just sort of strips them down to something essential, and how they cope with that.
It's quite beautiful.
Yeah.